It's been 15 years since Dragon Age Origins took the RPG world by storm. Hang on a second, 15 years? Oh god, that is depressing. I'm getting so old, bro. At the time, Origins was a massive critical and commercial success for Bioware, and yet the studio completely departed from the formula of this game in Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition, opting to chase after an ever wider market. And given the recent gameplay reveals for the Veilguard, it seems like they're straying even further away from Origins. At this point, I truly feel that there will never be another game quite like Dragon Age Origins. But given that the game is kinda outdated in a lot of ways, how well does it even stand up today? In this video, I'm going to revisit Dragon Age Origins and let you know if it's still worth playing. TLDR it is. We're going to take a look at the combat, role-playing options, companions, romance, and more to give you a sense of what DAO is all about. I'll be keeping this video spoiler-free, but I do plan on doing a bigger deep dive critique of Origins sometime this year, so be sure to subscribe to my channel if you're interested in seeing that. But without further ado, let's buckle up, grab some iced coffee, and dive into the world of Thetis in Dragon Age Origins. The first big hurdle to playing Dragon Age Origins today is getting it running on PC. Origins is almost old enough to get its driver's license at this point, and if you just install it and try to run the game vanilla straight out of the box, you're probably going to experience a lot of hard crashes to desktop. Thankfully, there is an easy solution. I've put a link in the description and pinned comment with instructions on how to run a patched version of Dragon Age Origins on Steam. Basically, this will fix some of the memory leak and crashing issues the game has. I also recommend going to Nexus Mods and installing QWINN'S DAO Fix Pack. This has a bunch of bug fixes that restores bugged out dialogue options and quests that won't appear in the game without the fix. I'll also link this mod in the description. And if you want to install other mods, you can feel free to do so. Personally, I like my first playthrough to be as close to vanilla as possible, but there are lots of cool mods for this game on Nexus if you're interested in that. I may make a video on which mods I like to use now, so let me know in the comments if you want to see that. But now that you got yourself all set up, it's time to dive into character creation. At face value, Dragon Age Origins character creator looks really basic and outdated. There are limited options for crafting your appearance, and a few different options for race: humans, elves, or dwarves. And there are only 3 options for class: warrior, rogue, or mage. What kind of basic bitch character creator is this, you might be thinking? But the most important decision you will make in character creation is your choice of origin story, and this is what really sets this game apart from other RPGs. Depending on your choice of background and class, you will go through one of 6 distinct prologue sections to the game. Each prologue provides a completely different storyline that takes roughly 1 hour to complete. The origin stories include Mage, Human Noble, Dwarf Commoner, Dwarf Noble, City Elf, and Dalish Elf. Now you might be thinking, hey, this sounds like the life paths in Cyberpunk 2077. Nah, this is much deeper, my friend. Dragon Age Origins makes Cyberpunk's life paths look like some Fisher-Price role-playing game. No offense to CDPR, Cyberpunk is one of my all-time favorite games, but in Cyberpunk your life path only gives you a brief prologue mission, 1 unique side mission, and a few throwaway lines of dialogue here and there, but other than that the main story is exactly the same. But in Origins, your choice of background can lead to completely different, unique choices in the story. For instance, and I'm going to keep this vague to avoid spoilers, there are certain decisions that you can only make as a mage, and there are other certain decisions that you can only make as a human noble. If you know, you know. Not only that, but there is a ton of unique dialogue based on your background. Almost every character in this game has some comment related to your origin story or race. And there are some characters you will cross paths with in the main story who you have a unique relationship with because of the prologue. Some prime examples are Joan from the Mage origin, Rendon Howe from the Human Noble origin, and Shiani from the City Elf origin. The amount of effort that Bioware put into making the origin stories feel truly unique is staggering. You just don't see this kind of thing in video games anymore, sadly, and it's one of the many reasons why Origins is a fan favorite even to this day. I only wish I could say the same about the game's combat. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I don't really like the combat in Dragon Age Origins. I was discussing this game with a friend earlier this week and trying to articulate why I didn't really connect with the system in this game, because on paper, Origins combat seems right up my alley. I love party-based, real-time with pause strategy combat, but something about this game just feels clunky in comparison to the OG Baldur's Gate games and Pathfinder Kingmaker. And I think a big part of the problem comes down to enemy design. Whether you're fighting Darkspawn, werewolves, bandits, or spiders, most combat encounters feel samey. Either the enemies run straight up to you and engage in melee combat, or they try to shoot you from range with spells or projectiles. So regardless of which type of enemies you're squaring up against, you can pretty much deploy the exact same combat strategies with maybe a minor tweak here or there. So when I'm playing Origins, I never really feel like I'm stretching that strategic muscle. I'm just spamming crowd control spells, buffs, and damage maxing abilities over and over again until everything is dead. Compare this to a game like Pathfinder Kingmaker. Enemies in that game have unique abilities and resistances that will require you to switch up your strategy to stay alive. The first time I fought Tartik and Harguka, I got completely wrecked because the troll gets a massive haste buff, causing him to tear through your whole team. But because he has a low willpower resistance, you can use a spell like Hideous Laughter to immobilize him, focus down his health, and then take out Tartik. Another example is the first time I fought against Wisps. They use lightning spells and they're extremely difficult to hit with most basic attacks, so they totally destroyed my party. But when I buffed my team with lightning resistance and used magic missile spells on them, the fight became a cakewalk. In all these examples, I was able to overcome combat challenges by deploying strategy and knowledge. But in Dragon Age Origins, I never really feel like I need that. Most of the fights I've wiped on in DAO were just scenarios where my team was massively outnumbered on the battlefield. Now, to be fair, I am playing the game on normal difficulty. Maybe these things become a lot more important on the highest difficulty, but normal difficulty Origins is brain dead compared to similar difficulty settings in Pathfinder Kingmaker or Baldur's Gate 2. Another reason the combat doesn't really click with me, and this is more of a vibe check, so take this with a grain of salt, are the combat animations. They feel really slow and sluggish, almost as if your characters are fighting in slow motion underwater. And while the animations don't really affect the mechanics of this game the same way as they would in an action game, I do think the animations contribute to the combat feeling like kind of a slog. I appreciate that there are some people that vibe with Origins combat, and appreciate the depth you can get in other areas, for instance the customizable AI tactics for companions and the wide variety of spells and abilities you can deploy to keep combat fresh. But for me personally, I just don't vibe with it. Origins is one of those games I enjoy in spite of the combat, not because of it. If you're a fan of RPGs, I do encourage you to give it a shot and have a little patience, because the rest of the experience is amazing and worth the journey, even if you don't love the combat. If you like games that combine compelling plot lines and characters with meaningful choices and consequences, then Dragon Age Origins is the game for you. Main quests and side quests alike often present the player with a variety of choices on how to resolve all kinds of conflicts. As a fan of the Mass Effect trilogy, and someone who loves exploring a wide array of choices and outcomes, I find Dragon Age Origins really satisfying in this regard. And when it comes to variation in dialogue options, Origins is really at the top of the game. You can be virtuous, good, an asshole, sarcastic. The full range of human emotions and personalities are at your fingertips in this game. Plus, you have a ton of dialogue options based on your origin story and background, as well as some skill checks and persuasion thrown in to boot. I rarely ever felt like my character couldn't say what I wanted them to say in this game. Bioware is known for well-written companion characters, and Origins is no different. Characters like Morgan and Alistair still represent the face of the franchise 15 years later, and represent some of the best companion characters in all of RPGs. My personal favorite companions from this game are Leliana, Alistair, and Morgan, of course. There are some duds in this game, like Wynn. I really didn't like her, mostly because she gives you shit if you get into a romantic relationship. Oghren was okay, and Zevran is a fan favorite, but I never really vibed with this character personally. Companion approval is comically gamified in Origins. You can literally make a companion fall in love with you just by giving them a handful of consumable gift items, which you can conveniently purchase in the party camp.
Interesting.
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 Okay.
Interesting.
But despite this, the romance and friendship arcs are very well written, and you're sure to fall for some of these characters. Dragon Age Origins had several DLC expansions of varying size and quality, the most notable of which is Awakening, which adds roughly 20 hours of new content taking place after the main story is finished, including new regions to explore and a host of new companions. Most notably, this introduces us to Anders, who is a main story companion in Dragon Age 2, and one of the best written characters in the whole franchise. Out of all the DLC for this game, Awakening is the only one I'd say is a must-play. Witch Hunt is also worth it because it gives an epilogue to Morrigan's storyline, but you're by no means obligated to play any of these before moving on to the next game in the series. So is Dragon Age Origins still worth playing today? Yes, this game is truly a timeless classic. It is rough around the edges in certain areas, and it can be a pain in the ass to get the game running because of outdated tech, and the combat can feel a bit sluggish, but this is one of the best role-playing experiences hands down. The depth of the origin stories, dialogue options, and story choices make this game an experience like no other. And even 15 years later, there's never been a game quite like Origins. So there you have it, my review of Dragon Age Origins in 2024. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more RPG videos and reviews. Big shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.